Hey guys, God bless you all. And this is part two. Thanks for joining me. What we're going to talk about today is in short, we're going to talk about Mecca. Not so much Rome, but here's the problem. One of our biggest problems as Christians is we get focused on what we've been shown and what we learn that we seem to disregard what other people say about the same subject. Of course, this causes strife. It causes pride. It causes bickering, discord. So when God shows you something, and He doesn't give you the complete picture of it, and somebody else is saying something else, always step back and look and do your own research and find out exactly if there's more to it than what God just told you. I'm guilty of this. When I first started this, I ran into a guy that the Lord led me to, and I kind of laughed at him and rebuked him. And the Lord was quick to tell me, you don't know everything. And his other words was, you need to pay attention to what this man is saying. And so from that point forward, I would always take it back to the Word of God to see if I could find the answers. And I was always shown that yes, what he was shown was true. Um, and that's a big problem with believers, including the ones that have like their own shows, their own books that they've written. They get stuck and they see it one way, and it's not the complete picture. Um, so let's just be careful. And I'm not gearing this towards anybody on the channel at all, but we're going to talk about Babylon. And people like to get wrapped up saying Mystery Babylon is this, Mystery Babylon is that, and that's this, and this is that, and there's no change in my mind. Um, So, Mystery Babylon, the key scripture is obviously Revelation 17. We see a very descriptive passage about a harlot. Of course, a harlot being in a false religion or a prostitute church that's caused many to be carried away by idolatry. Um, been much debate on this passage and just who it is. Some say it's the Roman Catholic Church, some say it's Islam, and one will say one and argue the other, and it's a big mess. Um, so what the Lord has shown me about Babylon was I took it very carefully when I studied Babylon because there's so many facets of it in the Bible. Um, but I feel the upfront statement is Mystery Babylon, the harlot is both the Catholic Church and Islam. And I'm going to show you just a few things that bring the two together to show that they're the one and the same. We could go through the whole laundry list of Revelation 17 and talk about the hills, or we could talk about the many waters, or we could talk about the shipping and the merchants, and you can go days for this trying to compare notes between the two for this passage. Now, what I have found is you can make a strong case, a very, very strong case for Mystery Babylon being both. Now, the Lord gave me a definition of Babylon a while ago, and this is how I remember kind of writing it down. It's Satan's cryptic, hidden, worldly, meaning it encompasses religion, education, politics, medical, his system, okay, that his kingdom uses to communicate and execute, and I should probably add control the masses through spiritual plans of darkness in the physical realm through those not of Jesus Christ. So, in other words, the religions obviously get us off track and give us just a portion of what we need. Education, dumbing down of America. That's a very big, obvious uh, problem we have. Also, they're inserting Islam religion into our education, our political system, our medical system, keep them medicated and give them more medications to counter the medications that they're on. I mean, it goes on and on. But it's this whole system that he uses to thwart us coming to Jesus Christ. Okay. So we know Babylon is a city. Revelation 18:10. We know it's a daughter, Isaiah 47:1, and we know there's a mystery. Okay, so um, that's how the Bible kind of lays it out. It's also a state of confusion. If you look at Babylon, it's a state of confusion. Just like Phil Collins' song, this is the land of confusion. This is the land of Babylon. A harlot in the Bible we talked about is a woman or church that goes after anything other than Jesus Christ and the Word of God, which is a supernatural fornication to follow a false light and not the true light of the living Word. The woman that you saw was the great city, okay, that reigns over the kings of the earth. Now, when I start bringing up these verses, I want you to think about the Roman Catholic Church, and I want you to think about Islam, okay? Now, is there a city that is associated with Islam? Yes, there is. It's called Mecca. Mecca is the hub. Millions of Muslims every year pilgrimage to Mecca to do whatever it is they do there. Circle the black stone, kiss the black stone, whatever the case may be, which is obviously spiritual fornication. We know the Vatican also is a woman that sits in the Vatican City or Rome, okay, which reigns over the kings of the earth. Okay, there is definitely fornication going on between the Roman Catholic Church and the leaders of the world. We also know that the city is tangible, which means it can be touched, it can be burned, it can be destroyed with fire. Okay. What about mother? How do we find any clues about this title which is given to her? Okay, from the Quran, the form Baka is used the form Mecca in the Quran 396, while the form Mecca was used in blah blah blah. Other references to Mecca in the Quran and these verses means mother of all settlements, mother of villages. Another name for Mecca is Taharma. All right, so Mecca itself means mother. Okay, we know that the Roman Catholic Church has Mary as its, I guess, centerpiece. And if you watch any Jonathan Kleck, you know you turn Mary upside down and it's a dead sheep. It's because of the idolatry. Everyone is worshiping the harlot. Okay, and I'm nothing against Mary. She's a vessel like all of us. Okay, she was used for a purpose. The Lord used her in a great way. However, Satan has turned this into idolatry and idol worship. Okay. The mother of all abominations of the earth that are not committed by both Islam and the Roman. What? Oh, okay. The mother of all abominations of the earth. Can you think of any abominations that are not committed by both Islam and the Catholic Church? They're both guilty of dozens upon hundreds of abominations. The problem is you'll see one do something openly, okay, like this picture we'll get to, and the other not so up front, or it's more behind the scenes. And they both flip-flop these kind of roles. Like, okay, martyrdom, okay, is kind of behind the scenes in the Roman Catholic Church, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But openly, it's in front of Islam. So obviously we have the open or the upfront, everyone sees it, it's on TV, it's right there. And then of course you have it behind the scenes, okay? Obviously I'm sure this Pope, I'm not sure who it was, did not condemn him for killing millions and millions of Jews. Okay, so they ended up dying for their faith. You also have the Crusades. Okay, there's a dozen different references. However, some of it's easy to see, some of it's not so easy, and you got to dig for it. The wicked government always has to have a religious backing to lull the masses into a sleep that what they are doing is okay and embraced by God. Okay? That's how the government gets away with all of the garbage they're doing and all the killing and all the sneaky bullcrap that they're doing behind the scenes. Is because they've embraced this guy. Okay? He is the head of the church. If he says it's okay, it must be okay. And this is how people get lulled into sleep. Islam and Catholicism have more blood on their hands than any religion in the world. Islam supports openly, the Catholic Church supports sometimes quietly. All the kings have committed fornication with her. Excuse me, guys. We are in bed with the Saudis, all right, for oil. We use them for oil. the harlot, all right, Islam in itself hates the West, okay, because of our cross, or our, not a cross, but our I guess our worship, or us being in bed with the Saudi Arabians. All right, it's because we need the oil. So we, in a sense, kiss their behind, all right, to get oil at prices. Okay, they have the best oil supply. They're an ally of the United States. Okay, Persia is not an ally of the United States. We don't get our oil from Persia, we get it from Saudi Arabia. So we have been in bed with them, doing trades, doing deals for a long time. And we're also in bed with the Roman Catholic Church. All right, we do all these things. If this guy once again says it's okay, all right, then he backs the government, and it's they don't need, they don't want each other. Okay, they don't want each other, but he has to have this face in front with him to lull the masses asleep. Again, in bed, fornication, everybody, the world, complete fornication. Now, what about the purple and scarlet decked with gold, precious stones, pearls? Okay, the Roman Catholics, pretty obvious. Scarlet and purple. Okay, I'm not going to get into it. You can Google this and you can see it all day long. However, where do you see this with Islam? It's encrypted. It's a little different. Okay, the black stone that they walk around, I should actually have a picture of this. Um, Let me just put this up real quick. This right here is the Kaaba, this black cube, all right? And inside of it is a stone that's shaped like a vagina that they walk around and kiss, all right? And this is what they do. All right, now this is from Walid Shabat, who is a former Muslim, okay? And he says, when it comes to the harlot, the Kaaba, all right, the stone, the cube, is a perfect match. The black tarp, okay, I'm gonna pull up a picture here so you can get it in your mind a little bit. This is it here. All right, it's beautiful. This is all gold. All right, these doors right here are solid gold. Okay, 280 kilograms of gold. All right, so there's all this gold reference and everything else that goes with this. Now, they also have a stone here. I'm gonna pull it up. That's shaped like a vagina. And this is equivalent to Aphrodite. Now we'll get into that in just a second. All right, but this is a fallen meteorite. Again, the woman, okay? It's the harlot, the woman. They've dedicated this to Aphrodite. Okay, so where were we? The kissa, or kiswa, is the dress, okay, that's used for clothing, virtual cover on top of it. So that cube is like a woman. That black tarp that goes around it is the dress, all right? Remember the Muslim woman in black. Let's just do that. Okay, like this dress they wear, the kiswa. It's exactly what it is. They're circling the woman, the harlot. Okay. Obviously, the Kaaba's much more adorned, okay, in her dress. Everything that describes the harlot fits the Kaaba. The dress, the pearls, the jewels, the gold, the silver. All right, the thread in that thing is silver. All right, it's silver thread. Even the blasphemies etched in the silver threads with the golden inlays across the attire. Just the doors alone are 280 kilograms of pure gold. The reference to a prostitute in Revelation 17, the whore of Babylon, is no coincidence, and the woman, the whore, was arrayed in purple and scarlet. Resembles the near copulating with the Kaaba's black stone, which historically was dedicated to Aphrodite, the prostitute goddess that was called Aphrodite the prostitute. The goddess adorned in purple is similar depictions of the Revelation 17:4. So this one you had to dig for a little bit, okay? But when you do the history behind this, it makes sense, okay? The cube is essentially a woman, all right? And if you look at John Cluck, some of his videos, he talks about the woman bringing in the people, the vessel used to bring the fallen here, okay? And that's what essentially they turned this into, is they're worshiping the woman, all right, which is that cube dressed and adorned in gold and silver. Okay, so it's a little bit harder to understand, but you got to dig for it. I think the case has been made for you to take this further on your own, okay? I'm convinced that the harlot is definitely at least these two mentioned harlots, just as Jesus said in the days of Noah, so it will be in the coming of the Son of Man. The first thought of this passage is great sin, okay, but you got to take it deeper. It goes much deeper than that. It talks about the door of the ark, which is the door in the spiritual realms, all right, that's going to be shut. All those things come into play, and you can't limit to just what you have been initially shown. You gotta dig into it and understand. Um, just as we spoke of this identification of Mystery Babylon, their destruction. All right, I want to continue with their destruction, but I'm going to focus not so much on the Vatican, but I'm going to focus on Mecca from this point forward. Okay, as it relates to the part one of the series that we did yesterday. Okay, Iran and Saudi Arabia have no diplomatic relations following an attack on the Saudi embassy in Tehran in 2016. These two countries do not get along at all. All right, Islam, Republic of Iran, and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia have been strained over several geopolitical issues, both interpretations of Islam and aspirations of leadership in the Islamic world. Oil export policy, okay, that is the wine of the earth, okay, and the relations with the United States and other Western countries. Once again, she's whored herself out. Um, and we'll see some examples here in just a minute. So these are two countries that do not get along. One's a Shia Muslim, which is Iran, and the other is a Sunni, which is Saudi Arabia. Interesting study here. This all comes back to a meal. And you just see God in this. He divided them essentially in this division between Sunni and Shia. They absolutely do not get along, and they see things totally different. So obviously a God move, because it was so simple, just at a meal that they had this argument, and it goes back to Muhammad and who was going to take the religion from after he died. And so anyway, it's just pretty funny how it kind of goes together. Here we go. We see Isaiah 21 is the key verse for Mecca. Okay. The burden of the desert. Okay. So John sees the same exact thing. He's carried away in the spirit into the wilderness, which is another word for desert. G2048 also means desert. So we see this burden of this desert by the sea, and we say he carried away in the spirit to the wilderness. Jeremiah 25 also covers some of the key players here. To make a desolation, an astonishment, and a hissing of a curse as of this day. And he starts to name all these people he's coming against. The Pharaoh, his servants, the mingled people of Uz, Ashkelon, Philistines, Aza, Ekron. You get the picture. Okay, you come back down here, and it says Dedan, Tema, Buz, and all that are in the uttermost corners, all the kings of Arabia. So God is addressing them here and saying, you're going to get it. All right, and this is all places in Saudi Arabia. All right, you have Taman. Mecca's not mentioned. Mecca wasn't there. But you have Dedan, Kedar, Doma, Seir. All these places are mentioned. Okay, and Seir's in, I believe, Isaiah, so we'll get to that one here in just a second. All these places are mentioned here. The burden of Arabia. In the forest of Arabia you shall lodge. All right, it talks about Kedar. You shall fail. Kedar is located right here. Tema, Taman, right here, down by Yemen. Dedanim, right here, and then Doma. So all these places are mentioned here that are going to be destroyed. What do we see? Do you see anything about Mecca? How it's on the shoreline here? All right, we'll get into that in just a second. So here you have Mystery Babylon. We talked yesterday about right here, around in here somewhere, is the place called Bushwar, which if it gets hit is going to shut down the Persian Gulf. Okay, so something's going to happen. I'm not sure which is going to happen first. Okay, but this is going to shut down Kuwait, Iran, and then either, we talked about, could it be an earthquake? Could it be, we don't know. However, over here, Mecca is on the Red Sea. So do you see how this would affect this side of the sea over here? One of the most major shipping lanes in the world is the Red Sea. okay, for oil exportation. So this would completely shut down the entire oil export. It would be kaput. All right. And so what does God say? He goes, make bright the arrows, gather the shields, for I have raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes. And I would add in there the Persians, okay, but that's just me. But he goes as a device against Babylon. Medes are pretty much north of Israel, okay? But in the Bible, it talks a lot about the Medes and the Persians being used for judgment by God. So you can keep that in the back of your mind. Human trafficking and forced labor is huge in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is one of the largest consumers of domestic workers, around 30% of the population. What they are is they're, if you ever never been over there, but they're so rich that they don't do anything, but they don't even work. I mean, they just walk around. I don't know what they do. But they have all kinds of workers and immigrants that do all their labor for them. They literally just do everything for them. And what it's become is a hive for prostitution. And of course, this all goes on behind the scenes. You would think, okay, the average person would think, okay, Islam, okay, yeah, they might not believe in God, but they're dedicated spiritually. No, they're not dedicated spiritually at all. They're the and it's because it's Satan's religion. You got to understand it's Satan's religion. So all these other things, this pedophilia and prostitution and all these things come into effect, and it has become a horrible cesspool of pedophilia, prostitution rings, children being imported. It's ridiculous. So you read this little snippet. This is just from Wikipedia. You can look it up yourself, but it has become a hub for this. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have our government officials sending them kids, and it just wouldn't surprise me in the least. This was just a search, and I found all these popped up. So 29 Keston prostitutes in a brothel in Saudi Arabia, prostitution ring busted in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Center for Human Trafficking, prostitution rings, imam arrested for running prostitution. I mean, it just goes on and on. And of course, Joel 3, chapter 2, or Joel 3, 3, it says, and they've cast lots for my people and have given a boy over for a harlot and sold a girl for wine. Uh, I mean, it's just, what they've done is just absolutely disgusting. So with the destruction of those two major oil exporters, oil is obviously going to be under very high demand. The war machine will need oil to move forward for tanks, military, helicopters, everything else. America has a lot of oil reserved and newly discovered here in Israel. They also have found oil reserves that have just recently been found in the last couple of years. Could this be the hooks in the jaw that draws out war to continue after Psalms 83? And that's what we'll discuss, here later on. So this is just a headline, but I thought this was pretty interesting. Look where it's located, this oil, as we talked about as we talked about the Golan Heights. Actually, I didn't mention the Golan Heights. I have my notes down for the next video, but the Golan Heights, you'll find out, is the most disputed piece of property in the world. And it goes back all the way to biblical times, where the Mount Hermon's located here, where the fallen angels fell. It's also the place where Jesus talked to Peter, and Peter says, "You are the Son of God." So Peter declares him Son of God at the most highly uh, controversial piece of land in the whole wide world. So anyway, I thought this was interesting too. Right down here, we're talking about a strata which is 350 meters thick, and what is a Portman of thickness and porosity is the company's chief geologist. He explained the average of the world stratas are about 20 to 30 meters thick, so this is 10 times as large. So we're talking about a significant quantity of oil. The important thing to know is the oil is in the rock, and that's all we need to know right now. This is enormous excitement. So a lot of oil found here recently in Israel. Okay, so that sets up for the next war, which is the Ezekiel 38 and 39. So what I just have you take from this is Mecca is obviously one of the Babylons. It's guaranteed. This is a huge shipping place. They have all the things that support the same things in the scripture of Revelation 17. As far as the ships, seeing them from shore, it all goes through. This is a huge thoroughfare, huge thoroughfare. And if it gets destroyed with Mecca and Bushwar over here, you can see how this would just completely shut down. Obviously, it talked about the destruction of those other territories which are located up here all the way down to Yemen. So this is just going to become a huge burning field, and oil will cease. Oil will definitely cease from coming from both of those locations, which will leave Israel in the Mediterranean up here to export oil. So we'll see where this goes, and God bless you all. Thank you for watching. And I'll add some of this stuff to the Google Drive, and I'll add a video that's very informative to the Google Drive that I used to do this study on. So God bless you and thank you.